As Thomas said, this pandemic really has shone a light on the social inequality, not just around the world, but here in Ireland as well. And it's shown how if we tamper with nature, there are cataclysmic effects on our very fragile blue planet. But I'm an optimist. Why, you might ask? Well, I get to work every day with some of the most inspirational and knowledgeable people who've been working on driving the CSR and sustainability agenda for 20 years. But we also get to work with those fabulous 100 companies and many more companies on driving the agenda forward. So I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour of what we've been up to with those companies, but I'm particularly going to focus in on giving you the stories that we hear on the ground from the people and the communities most impacted. I don't know if you know, but 55% of charities in Ireland are facing huge funding drops. Many of them will not and cannot survive. Our sister organisation, the brilliant Community Foundation for Ireland, a philanthropic organisation, they moved quickly early on. At the end of March, towards early April, they actually launched a COVID-19 relief fund for charities. We put the call out to our members and you definitely stood up. I just want to name check the 7 companies that gave really fantastic corporate donation support to that fund. Bank of Ireland and HSBC and Ulster Bank and KBC and Intel and Workday and Ervia. Thank you so much for stepping up to the mark. In those early days of March and April, our companies turned to us and said, what can we do to help our charities of choice, our community partners? And we were just saying, listen to them, find out what they need, both in the short term and the longer term. Double down on your commitments. For example, we would have worked with Lidl on creating that partnership with Jigsaw. And recently they've just recommitted to that partnership till 2022. Or Tesco launching new funds, or many more companies I don't have time to name check, but thank you. A big topic as well in those early days, and ongoing topic right now, is the area of employee engagement. Mental health is a massive challenge for all of us, and I'm sure many businesses out there, many NGOs, many of you personally, are really dealing with mental health challenges. So we worked with our companies on employee engagement, on pivoting to virtual volunteering, which is a real hot topic now. And I'm delighted to say next week, just watch out for our social media and website. We'll be promoting some case studies from our members of the great work they're doing on virtual volunteering and top tips from us here at Business in the Community. We cannot have a fair and equal society if we leave a young generation behind. That's why we've worked in education for 20 years. Quite simply, we match businesses with schools in the most disadvantaged areas all around the nation. We've helped 40,000 students to date. We have an army of business volunteers who mentor primary school children with literacy and numeracy, or help older children with mock interviews and CV skills, and just giving them hope that there's jobs for them in the future. In May, we ran a quite incredible webinar featuring people on the front line when it comes to education. We heard from Dr. Aideen Cassidy, a real hero now of mine, principal of a school in Finglas. Not only was she worried about homeschooling to kids who don't have access to technology, who were relying on mobile phones and mobile phone credit to actually access homeschooling, she was worried about some of those families not being able to put food on the table. Her and her incredible teachers not only were trying to deliver education, they were actually trying to deliver food to those vulnerable families. And this wasn't just Finglas. We heard from teachers in Cork saying the exact same thing. And I want to give a shout out to Gas Networks. They supplied that school and many others, not just with equipment, but with funding for those food drives as well. The digital divide is massive in this country. And it's great to see companies like IBM and Microsoft move so quickly and get their employees to deliver virtual training to teachers trying to get to grips with this new technology. At that same webinar in May, we heard from the well-known child psychologist, David Coleman, and his interviews is on our social media channels. David said something that will stay with me, I think, forever. He said, children in disadvantaged areas will bear the brunt of this crisis. Even as everything opens up today and in the future, those effects will be felt definitely for a long time to come. David and the schools and teachers that we speak to every day on the ground tell us that they need business support now more than ever. Resilience is low for our young children in those disadvantaged schools. Having role models to look up to, having a sense that there are jobs out there in the future and to give them hope, that is huge. So thanks to all the companies, not just in our network, but many more hundreds of companies engage in our education programs. As Thomas said, the Black Lives Matter movement really has caused fascinating conversation about race and discrimination and authentic diversity and inclusion, not just in the States, but here in Ireland too. For years, over 15, 20 years, we've been running programs to help people in direct provision, migrants, people who have disabilities, people who suffer homelessness, get back into the world of work. We know that employment is the single biggest way to actually break the cycle of poverty. And as we reboot the economy, they must not be left behind again. We moved our training quite quickly to virtual training in those first months of lockdown. And thank you so much to the companies who stood by us and moved quickly with us. We have companies like BITCI who are now delivering virtual IT training. We have companies like KPMG and Accenture and A&L Goodbody and so many more, A&L Goodbody, who actually help with coaching or job skills or mentoring. Enterprise Rent-A-Car, who have delivered training with us for years as well. Thank you so much. And a big shout out to Marks and Spencer's as well. Retail's going through a tough time at the moment, but they are staying committed with us and even giving us work placements for some of our most vulnerable clients towards the end of the year. So thank you for staying the course with us. That really was just a whistle-stop tour of what we've been up to. I did not even get a chance to talk about our fabulous membership services team who work one-on-one with those companies. They help them on delivering their sustainability strategy. They help them navigating the complex world of ESG and understanding the sustainable development goals, looking at human rights or sustainable procurement or measurement, or those companies who are now going through the business working responsibly mark. And we will be announcing those certified companies towards the end of the year. There can no longer be a debate about why a fair, inclusive and green economy makes business sense. There is a new wave, a new generation of talent, of customers, of investors, of voters who expect more of business. Empty statements on websites won't cut it. They want to see commitments, they want to see transparency, and they want to see accountability when it comes to tackling climate change and being authentically diverse and inclusive. I want to thank our 100 members for all that you've done over the last 100 days. I want to thank those companies who've been with us for the last 20 years. I particularly want to thank those companies who recently joined us. Welcome to the network. And a huge thanks to those unsung heroes who are the CSR and sustainability professionals in our member companies who've been driving this agenda for years and continue to drive this agenda. We are with you all the way. So thank you so much. We truly believe that we can rebuild Ireland, but in a fair, sustainable and inclusive way.